Microphone check 212. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite bearded man, Bob Bay in the building, Steven Vigilante. What up, baby?
You aced that one.
Can you grab that Olipop? I feel like we have to honor this podcast off with a little crack.
The
pop.
only way we can start.
Fire it up, baby. Oh!
There's like ASMR right there.
Now, for the people, because unfortunately there is no visuals, for the people that are listening, what did we just crack?
Just cracked a Vintage Cola Olipop.
And how would you describe what this beverage is, what this brand is becoming? Because it's a rocket ship right now.
The healthy alternative to soda is kind of the tagline we always use, and we're kind of workshopping that. We're working on what we want to be. I always tell people it's not a kombucha, it's not a sparkling water, it's not a juice, it's not a tea. It's a soda that happens to be good for you. And we really try to lean into the taste and the flavor profile as opposed to the functional benefits, where it's a digestive health drink. There's fiber and botanicals in it, which are good for your gut. But we lean into the taste and the brand more so than kind of the ingredients, because that's what most people actually care about.
How many flavors you I think it's six right now. So you have orange squeeze, strawberry vanilla, classic root beer, vintage cola, ginger lemon, and cherry vanilla. What's the go-to flavor for you?
I'm a cola guy.
Yeah. This does taste pretty bomb, not gonna lie. I think I had this for the first time at your house probably like 5 weeks ago. It was actually after Raf's birthday. I think we all. I barely even knew you, but I was with a squad of people. We ended up at your spot. You live in Venice, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely was your spot. And
always Olipop in the fridge.
Somebody's like, "Do you want an Olipop?" I was like, "I have no idea what this is," but ever since then, I've been seeing this brand everywhere, and I feel like it's just like crushing.
I had
a
nickel
now.
For every time someone said, "I see it everywhere." After I saw it at your house, I'm like, "That's exactly what I want you to say."
Dude, so you joined up with them in 2018. Around
July 2018.
What's kind of like you kind of went from like investor to then now growth marketing manager. How did this all kind of come about?
Yeah, kind of been in and around the consumer space since I was 19. I had an investing role in college, actually. We had a student-run mutual fund at Penn State, and I managed the consumer sector of the fund my junior year. And I was like, 19 years old, reading research reports and earnings reports on like Coke, Pepsi, General Mills, Kraft Heinz, and it was kind of like, this is really interesting. Like,
yeah,
it's these brands are all around us every day. Heinz ketchup, right? Like, but you don't really know anything about how the business operates. And so I got really into that my junior year of college, like kind of randomly. And then I had this like kind of intense finance background. So I ended up going into consumer investment banking in San Francisco, kind of following my nose. I was like obsessed with Shark Tank. I always tell people I was like on Shark Tank when I was a sophomore in college, not on the show, but I watched it like the debut episode, and I got like really into Mark Cuban, and I thought it was so cool.
He's the GOAT.
Of course.
He's such a badass.
And it's funny because I've met so many people now who've been on the show, and you hear all the backstories. I actually don't watch it anymore because there's a lot of issues with it.
Totally.
But I was like, I want to be in San Francisco. I want to be working with startups. And so I did investment banking out in San Francisco. And then I ended up at what was an equity crowdfunding marketplace for early stage food and beverage companies called CircleUp. And they had raised from like Google and Collaborative Fund and some big investors within the venture community. And I really didn't know much about venture capital. I just wanted to work with startups because of Shark Tank. And my like second week there, I got like really thrown into the fire and went to Expo West, which is like the biggest natural and organic foods trade show in the world down in Anaheim. And it was like I was like a kid in a candy store. You go in there, it's like every single cool young brand debuting all their new products, giving out samples. You're eating like protein pasta for breakfast and keto ice cream for lunch. Every like prebiotic protein bar mixed in with like this was like before CBD water, but there's like a million kombuchas, and it was like heaven. I was like, this is my people. Like this is like investment banking was not for me, but this is awesome. And while I was there for 3 years. We actually ended up raising our own fund. So we were crowdfunding for brands, but we worked with a lot of cool brands from doing that. And then we kind of got enough attention from the investor community that we raised our own $125 million kind of seed fund solely focused on food and beverage. And I guess solely focused on consumer products broadly, but I kind of carved out my niche on the food and beverage side. And we were really one of the first venture funds in the country investing specifically in consumer products. And so I always tell people I had to take 30 like brand calls a week for 3 years, and you do that long enough, and if you're
just to hear their pitch.
Yeah, just to hear the pitch.
How long would each call be? 30 to 45 hours?
15 to 90 minutes, depending on how interesting it was.
So how do you know when you have to make a decision? Do we invest in this or do we not? What's like the What are some of the boxes that you're checking where like we need to go in on this, or immediately like red flag, not worth our time?
Yeah, it's something I think about very often, and it's something that I'm still like formulating and is ever evolving. And when I was like a 23-year-old idiot who only worked in investment banking and venture capital, I had like a very specific view of the world that was kind of based on learnings I had from the guys older than me who had been working in consumer private equity for 5 to 15 years, and there's like a very different lens of looking at a business as an investor than there is as an operator. And so now that I've spent the last 2 years within businesses and operating and now helping run e-commerce for a brand, I have like a very, very different lens on what I would consider a really interesting investment opportunity than I would have said 5 years ago. And the way I would distill it down, if I had to like teach someone in a sentence what I think is interesting in the food and beverage world, it's products that give people what they really want deep down, but make them feel better about it. And so the examples I will point to are Olipop is people want soda, right? It's like people didn't stop drinking soda because they don't like it. People stop drinking soda because it's really bad for them. We're giving people permission to drink soda again and feel good about it. And there's a couple other brands who've done something similar. There's a candy company called Smart Sweets that just got bought for close to $400 million 4 years in, selling like low sugar candy. And it's like tastes like Swedish fish, but it's like not nearly as bad for you.
Yeah.
There's a pizza brand that's exploded doing cauliflower pizza. There's a protein pasta company called Banza. There's a company that's done like low sugar ice cream, Halo Top. Simple Mills did it with Cheez-It. So these are all like junk food categories, right? That kind of got reinvented.
Yeah.
So you're not teaching people a new behavior. You're not like trying to convince them to go eat kale chips. You're like, here's a Cheez-It. It tastes a lot like a Cheez-It, but it's actually way better for you and has good ingredients. And those are the products that I kind of look for because I think they're like the most scalable. They're not like, there's a lot of brands that are just like Erewhon products, right? That are like really expensive. They're really clean ingredients, but like it's a $10, CBD, like adaptogenic, whatever.
It's ridiculous.
And like, no, like Ken in Kentucky is never going to buy that product.
Can I admit a truth to you? Please. I have never stepped foot into an Erewhon. I've lived in LA for over 3 years.
This is embarrassing, I'll say it out loud, but part of the reason I wanted to move to LA from San Francisco was for Erewhon.
They don't have Erewhon in Northern California? Is it just an LA base?
Just an LA thing. They just opened their 6th location.
So what is it about Erewhon? I mean, it's just from what I know, it's a bougie ass freaking grocery store. They sell $20 protein shakes and the list goes on and on. But what is it about Erewhon?
They have the best retail experience I've ever seen in any store, not just grocery store. There's like free valet in the parking lot, like the lighting.
Free valet
in the parking lot.
Oh my god, that is so ridiculous.
I know, but it like makes the whole operation work better. The fact that you can just get up and get there and get out of your car and like they take care, like it's a little thing, but it actually it's
all about the experience. Totally.
Right? As a brand person, right, I'm always kind of thinking about like how do you make the customer always. They're so singularly focused on the customer, it's insane. And they also the secret to Erewhon, not secret, but is they have got a hot bar and you get up and you get your like turmeric coconut chicken and your buffalo cauliflower, and it's really delicious. And it's like it's one of those things. It's like you walk out and you're like, how did I just spend $27 on that? But if you're at a restaurant, you're getting the same thing. It's the same price.
I've come to realize that I can actually rationalize spending more money on food that's better for me because I am a vehicle and I'm putting in good food to my system within reason. But I can rationalize
life shift when you kind of make that decision. And again, some of this comes down to like financial means and stuff like that.
Totally.
But Erewhon, I always like make the joke like they have their bags like that you leave the store with your food in that it says if it's in here it's good for you, which I think is like the smartest tagline of all time because you have people who are in there who are like, oh, I'm eating this like keto fried chicken sandwich, and it's like, yeah, it's keto, but it's still fried chicken. But whatever, you can play whatever tricks you want.
So I'm curious, why?
It was our first store ever, by the way. Shout out to
Erewhon.
They were the first store that ever took Olipop on.
Were you on the team when that happened or no?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
I was in the pitch meeting and had brought the samples in, and we actually gave them an exclusive. They took us from October through December of 2018. They were the only place in LA you can get it. And to be completely honest, it caught wildfire. Our second month there, we like grew 1,000% from our first month, and we had this like end cap where you like kind of walk into the store and you're in this like big refrigerated cooler. We had the whole thing. Think of like a wall of 200 Olipops.
Yeah.
And it was like a billboard in the store, and we like blew it out the water. It was awesome because we put all of our effort into it too. It was the only stores we were in, so we were in there. I was in there like almost every day, like sampling back when we were allowed to do that. In a pre-COVID world. And it honestly, we raised our seed round on our Erewhon data, and it's still the Venice location is still our number one velocity retailer in the country.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you guys are going in for the pitch, are you part of that pitch, or are some of the founders or other executive team the one actually pitching?
So that specific one was me and our social media manager, Alexa, who's now like my neighbor, and we work super closely together because we were the only two people in LA.
Interesting.
So it was like, let's just go have this meeting. And I knew the buyer. I had known her from my past life.
Yeah.
And had set the meeting up, and she was like, come on, bring some samples. We'll talk about it. And she kind of like opened it, took a sip, and was like, this is one of the best drinks I've ever had. And I test drinks for a living. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
That's pretty good.
And she brings the owners in, they try it, and she was like, I want this. She's
owner of Erewhon?
Yeah.
Oh,
and she was like, I want this. She was like, don't give it to Whole Foods.
Wow.
And so we gave them an exclusive for the first time.
How many locations, Erewhon?
At that time, they were 4, and they've opened 2 more, so they're now 6.
So is it all west of LA?
No, there's Calabasas. They've got the OG that's been there since the 1960s is in like Fairfax, West Hollywood.
Dope.
And then they just opened Silver Lake, and they've got Santa Monica, Venice, and Palisades. They opened Palisades.
Oh, makes sense. Okay. Is it interesting when you're going in for that pitch though? Because you used to be the one, like you were saying, being of this podcast, you're the one taking calls, listening to these pitches, but now you're on the opposite side and you're trying to sell this product. Was that like a weird shift for you, or did you feel like you used it to your advantage because you know what these people that are listening want to hear, essentially?
I would say a beverage to grocery sales pitch is extremely different than a venture capital to entrepreneur sales pitch, But there are some dynamics. No, I don't know. It was probably the first and the last sales pitch I did because we actually I think our first hire was a salesperson, and then he's kind of built out. We have a sales team of like 12. They're incredible. We're a national sales team now, so they do all that stuff. I'm like super removed from the process. I manage all of our like paid ad spend on Facebook, so like still selling, but in a very different format, in like short little bite-sized ads online and like podcast ads and influencer ads. So long story short, it is interesting being on the other side and being the one selling. But part of the reason I'm so obsessed with Olipop and why it's been such like a delight for me is like I'm such a passionate person, and things I get really into, I'm like kind of always pitching people on, and people are always asking me like, what products are you into, blah blah, and it's like I love this stuff. I drink 2 every single day. It's completely changed. I was like a little fat kid drinking root beer in New Jersey. I grew up on like Stewart's orange and cream and Stewart's root beer, and the fact that I can now drink an orange soda and a root beer every day for combined 7 grams of sugar instead of 48.
Wow.
It's like amazing.
Yeah, that's a big difference. Yeah, so New Jersey, that's where you grew up, East Coast.
Grew up in New Jersey, yep.
What was the reason for going to Penn State? Was it just like, did you have any clue as to what you wanted to do with your life at all? I mean, you said 19 is when you started to watch Shark Tank. Was that kind of the inspiration for you? Would you major in? It was finance and minor in economics?
Yeah. It's funny because I grew up in a very small high school in New Jersey, played 3 sports. Like sports kind of were at the epicenter of everything in town, but graduated like 150 kids. Like everybody knew everybody. Small. Super small. Yeah. The whole high school was like 500 kids. Everybody like knew everybody. Everybody was up at each other's business, and I was like always like going to other towns and making friends with people from other high schools, and like the town next to us at this huge school and all these kids from all these towns, and I was like, that's like way more fun than this little like I had plenty of friends who went to like local state schools and had a good time. But I went to Penn State, and like it was one of those, you walked around, it was like a rainy April day, it was like a miserable day there, but I could just see it. You could just feel the energy of this like 45,000 kids, amazing football team. And I really wanted to go to UNC Chapel Hill, true story. Did not get in there, which I'm in retrospect, like I'm not like, I don't have that Southern aristocracy to me. I've never been a Sperry's.
You would have molded into it though. You would have molded in.
Being a chameleon, but like that whole like do you know who my dad is culture? You know what I mean? Geez. It's like very not me, not where I came from.
Yeah.
And Penn State is like very grounded. You got your Pittsburgh, your Philly. That whole rivalry is kind of fun. I was there during the worst scandal in the history of like sports and the world.
Oh wow!
Which definitely jaded my experience there, I'd say. And I was a junior. It was like it was like
at least you're on your way out.
The news vans were like on. Like I was in one of the biggest fraternities, like right on the main drag in downtown State College, and like there was news vans parked outside for literally 2 months. Like you couldn't go to class without getting a microphone stuck in your face.
Wow.
And you know, that definitely tainted my experience. I had a great experience there, and like that investment club I was in college, like kind of put me on the path and everything. So like I wouldn't trade any of it for the world. But Yeah, there's like kind of like a cult vibe
Oh,
there in State
man.
College, Pennsylvania.
Oh,
It's a
man.
long way. Venice, California is a long way from
I know. How
State
are you
College.
like in Venice, though, especially coming from San Fran? I feel like that is just. I've only been to San Fran a couple times, but I know it is a completely different culture. It is a different lifestyle, even though it's right down the
I would
coast.
argue they're like the two most different cities in the country.
You would say San Fran and Venice?
San Fran and Los Angeles in
Yeah.
general. But like San Fran's hilly and like never gets that warm, and it's like really beautiful around it, but like the city itself is like kind of gnarly. And it's like totally dominated by one industry, right? It's very homogenous, I guess would be the right word. And it didn't really hit me until I moved down here that like LA is really diverse. Like think about our group of friends, like even
Totally.
like the group we were with like a couple Saturdays ago, you've got people in the creative world, you've got people who work at like talent agencies, you've got people who work at startups, you've got people who work in food and beverage, like it's all over the place, and you're meeting so many new people every day. And like in San Francisco, like I almost only knew like software engineers and tech salespeople, because that's what dominates
very
the
heavily
industry.
just that
Yeah.
those two types of people.
Like when you're in an Uber
Careers.
in San Francisco, like 9 out of 10 times the Uber driver like works at a tech company and like is hustling or
That's
is like
unreal.
starting a tech company. Yeah, it's so different. And here it's like you meet actors and writers and singers and who are hustling, people who have podcasts, right?
Yeah.
It's like I just find it so much more stimulating that people here are like so much more into like the creative side of life than in San Francisco. So
Yeah, those are two different types of worlds. Had you always thought about moving to California, though? I feel like, especially coming from the East Coast, I can relate to you on that. From Massachusetts, like for me personally, 5th grade, if you ask me where I want to go when I'm older, I was like California,
Yeah.
Southern California, need to be there,
Same
sunshine. Same thing.
SoCal's got this pull to it for certain people, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's other people who hate it, and I like. If you hate SoCal, I totally respect it. There's a lot of people who've been here once, had an awful traffic experience, won't come back, and I'm like,
Always the traffic.
I'm like, fine, like
Yeah.
we don't need you.
Yeah.
But I've had this draw. There's a couple cities like LA has always had a draw to me. When I moved to San Francisco like a month later. Actually, that's not even true. I was my first job out of college. I was a management consultant. I was traveling from Philly to Chicago every single week, and on the weekends I could fly anywhere I wanted, like as long as it cost less than getting back to Philly. And so I started coming to LA because my very good friend from college moved here, and it's funny, I like in the Uber, or I don't even know if we had Uber back then, in the cab from the airport to his place, it was like a Friday morning probably, or maybe it was like Thursday afternoon. I was just like, this is the coolest city ever. Like it took me that fast. And then I went to San Francisco. I was coming down here once a quarter at least, if not once a month.
Yeah.
So we had a bunch of portfolio companies down here, and I would actually go to Erewhon to find like new brands to talk to.
Yeah.
That was where I kind of started going, even knew what Erewhon was back then. And I just like totally fell in love with it. There's a couple of cities. LA has been like this. I've had this like weird calling with Berlin. I've been like always obsessed with Berlin. Finally went there last year. Buenos Aires, I've never been to. Really want to go. It's just like, I don't know what it is. They just have this like kind of cool factor. They're not like too touristy. Like you got to kind of know what you're doing to have a good time there. It's not like overrun with like a million places to stand in line and spend money. That's like not kind of my vibe, I guess.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. And I think, it's actually awesome to hear that you have that curiosity to want to go travel and see different places, because I'm sure you know people back in your hometown that just have never wanted to leave and will be there for the rest of their life, which is totally cool. Hey, if that's the lifestyle you want to live, like please do it. But I also just believe there is so much beauty in this world to see, and so many experiences and people that you can meet just by having that curiosity. Like, I want to go to San Fran. I want to move to LA. I want to go to Berlin or Buenos Aires. I mean, anywhere.
I went to Berlin alone last year. It was amazing.
Solo dolo for how long?
Solo dolo. I did 5 days in Lisbon, 5 days in Berlin.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Well, any
So much
big
fun.
takeaways from it? I know Berlin, they love to rage. That's what I've heard.
I would say I had very high expectations, and like it somehow topped them. It's such a cool city. It's super progressive. It's got this crazy plant-based food scene, which I wasn't expecting at all. Like very, very good food. The nightlife is like, it's just totally different.
Another lifestyle, right?
And it's also just like very, think of it like, think about Vegas and like turn everything inside out, and that's Berlin. It's like, you can't be showy. There's no like tables. There's no like, money doesn't get you anything. You got to kind of be low key. Multiple places they'd ask at the door who you voted for because they knew I was American. And like, if I had said Trump, they wouldn't let you in.
Really?
Yeah, really interesting.
Wow.
But I tell people this a lot. I feel like I was one of, like, I grew up in this town in New Jersey. Everyone like loved where they were from, and like it was very like, I was obsessed with sports, and like that was kind of it. I would have said I didn't have a lot of interests. And then my junior year, I went to go visit my buddies who were all studying abroad in Rome and Barcelona, and it kind of like, I feel like it was the first time I kind of like took the top off of like, oh, there's a whole world outside of like
the US,
the New York Yankees and like New York City and northern New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
So that was your first time traveling outside the States?
Traveling outside the States. Yeah. And it lit a spark. And I've made a goal of being international every single year since. And I think I've done it every single year other than maybe one. And even this year, I made it down to Mexico before the border closed.
Damn, that's good. You weren't nervous like traveling to Berlin solo like that? You just like you just go with the flow? Do you plan things out ahead of time? Because I think just thinking of me going international, so I'm like going down to Mexico for my birthday in like 3 weekends, and we have like a group, and it's gonna be great. But I'm thinking like if I just went there by myself, like that's pretty respectable. I
love like being able to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
To a fault too. Yeah. David Lester's probably gonna listen to this, co-founder of Olipop, and he's like always slapping me on the wrist because I go and do stuff on myself that I shouldn't. But it's a gift and a curse, I'd say. It was incredible. It was really amazing, and I just like was so free, and I was kind of able to do whatever. And you kind of like what I did was stay in hostels for the first half of Lisbon and first half of Berlin to meet people, and then I jumped to a hotel, and I made a bunch of like quasi friends and hung out and went out with them. But then like if I wanted to like go out to dinner by myself, I could do that as well. And
that's respect.
You just meet people. There's a whole like travel culture, like especially Australians, and a lot of them travel alone, and it's totally normal to be honest. And you kind of like you find each other, and then like I did like a big Euro trip the year after I graduated with a friend, and then she ended up staying in Greece with her family, and I kept going to Prague, and like I met someone in Prague who I'm still friends with, like, and she was traveling alone and had actually like moved there for a bit to teach English, and those things are like, those are amazing. Like those are like some of my favorite people I've ever met. And so,
it's such a skill though. I think it's so.
I can talk to a wall. Anyone who's ever met me, I could. You could too. I feel like you could be sitting in a bar anywhere and make friends.
No, so. I totally can. I think I've never had that type of an opportunity, or I've never pushed myself to really do that. But yeah, I mean that's like throw me in the middle of 100 people of strangers, and I'm like the highest. I try to bring a lot of energy, a lot of positivity.
I do feel like Massachusetts, almost more so than like where I'm from, it's probably even more insular. Yeah. Where when you leave the coop, it's like you're like a freak. Yeah,
right. Big deal. That's why I got it tatted on me, so I don't forget where I'm coming from. I'm curious though, because you touched on how you post college, you jump around. You go from Deloitte Consulting, Cowen and Company, CircleUp, Chef. Or at any time while you're popping around, are you finding that you're like, wow, I wake up every day, I'm happy to be here? Or do you find like there's the honeymoon phase where you're with them for a year or two and then you're like, this isn't made for me? Or are you constantly just like, what's the next thing? Because I think that's like that's like something we all think that the next like opportunity is the one, and then you're just like, okay, what's the next thing that I need to be doing?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And so just to timeline, I was at Deloitte for 11 months. I was at Cowen for 9 months. That CircleUp for 3 years. That was like a longer, like I was very invested. And I loved it. I learned so much, and I loved like meeting entrepreneurs, like finding brands. It was so much fun. But it's funny, those first two, like I took like investment banking and management consulting are very good jobs to get out of college, right? And like I'll never forget like calling my grandpa, who's like my rock, right? And everything. And I call him a year out of school, and I'm like, hey, this is like awesome job I've got. Like I'm quitting and moving to San Francisco. And he's like, what? Like he worked his way up from like an entry level engineering job at Bell Labs to like C-level at AT&T at the same company for 37 years.
Wow.
Right? So he's like, you're doing what? And then like 9 months later, I give him a call. I'm like, hey, I'm actually quitting another job and I'm going to this startup that does like fundraising for brands. And he's like, are you effing kidding me? Like, what's wrong with you? And like, same thing about, my parents are like, what? But I kind of had this like, it's weird in retrospect to think about it, but like I was like following my gut, and I like CircleUp for me, I like looked at it as like a way to get in with startups and get into this world of like venture capital I didn't totally understand, but like they had backing from really good investors, and the team was like crazy good pedigree. They all worked, Harvard, Stanford, like amazing private equity experience. And I was just kind of like, if I can get my foot in that door, like I know I'm capable. Like I didn't have, I went to a big state school and I didn't work at like Goldman Sachs, but I had the nose for it, and I kind of just went with it. And then I was there for 3 years, and I kind of had this calling to get off the investment side and go work in a brand, learn it from the inside out, really learn e-commerce. That was what I wanted to do. And I call everybody and they're like, you're doing what? Like you're moving to LA, you're going to work at this another startup. It's like pretty unproven, and like they'd raise some money, but It's funny because the first 2 jumps were the right decision in retrospect. Like getting to CircleUp like definitely changed my life. It gave me an incredible exposure as like a young mid 20-year-old. The jump down to LA was not the right move.
Why?
That company
gotcha.
They had raised I think like 40 million or 45 million like a month before I got there, and they were out of business 6 months later.
No way. So were they just burning the cash?
Yeah.
40 mil, dude. That's a lot of money.
It was wild. I mean, it was cover of the Wall Street Journal story, and it was like one of the biggest, startup implosions of whatever 2017.
So was it was just bad decision making by the executives, or was it the wrong
pretty poorly managed company? Founder was very independently wealthy, had put a lot of his own cash in, and like had built warehouses and like built infrastructure that kind of made it look like it was working, and had some like big contracts that like fell through at the end of that year, and he had like of that money he had raised, like 10 of it went to debt, like 10 million of it, and then 10 million went to a facility. So like it was like really 20, not 40. And he was burning a lot of cash. It was one of those, like I was there for like a month, and I kind of got really under the hood, and I was like, oh man,
this is not going to last.
This thing is a house of cards. And it's funny because there was a bunch of people who I had kind of called in my like 3 days I spent making my decision to jump, who were like, yeah, I've heard some things about that business. It's not all it's cracked up to be, blah, blah. And I kind of just like ignored them. And it was a really, really good lesson. And like, if there's like red flags, like maybe dig in a little bit further. But in retrospect, it got me to LA, and it moved me down here. And it was one of those, it really punched me in the mouth. I was like I would probably say pretty seriously depressed for a while, because I had like given up this awesome thing in San Francisco and bet kind of like my life on coming down here. Like he was like, yeah, we're gonna raise more money and we're gonna go sell the business, and like it was gone in 6 months, and I was kind of like, the heck am I gonna do? I'm like a loser. I'm at this like failed startup, and it actually like pushed me out the door to finally give myself the space, I guess, to start my own consulting business, and that's actually what I ended up doing. And as luck would have it, I was like randomly introduced to a woman in San Francisco who was considering making an investment in this pre-launch fiber soda thing called Olipop. And at the end of the call, it was just like a random networking call. She's like, can I send you their deck and get your feedback on it? Like, you sound like you know a little bit about beverage. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I opened it up, and I made it like 5 slides in, and it was just like, this is the best deck I've ever seen. This is like the coolest product I've ever seen. Like, no one's pitched me a healthy soda in like 4 years of looking at this stuff. And I cold called one of the co-founders, and I was just like, hey, I know you don't really know who I am, but I have some like investor relationships at like beverage brands, and like I think I can help you. You're raising money. They were supposed to launch like 2 months later, and that's how I kind of got involved. And I would never have made that phone call if I was still an employee at that company. It was never in a million years.
So you were sold off the deck, and you hadn't even tried the product. Yeah. And at this time, this wasn't even launched.
Nope. They had samples in like a soda.
So these founders, can't be their first rodeo then. Had they, like to go and actually, a lot of founders I think would think through the idea, start, and figure it out as they go. But if they're out throwing around a deck and the product is even available or hasn't even launched, I would imagine these guys knew what they were doing.
Yeah, they had a beverage brand before. It wasn't a smash success. Just to be clear, they didn't like go and sell it for a couple $100 million and have like a ton of cash. Like they did pretty well with it. They had like a modest sale, and then went back to their same investors to raise like a seed round, because this idea is actually kind of like an evolution of their last product. They had a probiotic, like a fermented soda product that kind of tasted a little bit more like a kombucha. It was in a bottle. It looked a little bit more premium. You would never have had a sip of it and be like, holy smokes, that tastes exactly like a root beer. It was like, this is like a healthy root beer that's like $4, and it would never substitute for someone who's like addicted to root beer. And this is, to me, that substitute product. They kind of took their lessons and learnings from the last round and came back with this.
It's so interesting how that works though, because in the time when they were maybe thinking about leaving that old business, you think like all the time and effort that we put into this thing, like it could be a quote unquote waste. Or similarly to what I was telling you before, like this old podcast that I used to do at the time of me like kind of stepping away from it, I felt like I lost my identity. I was like, all this is down the drain. And then I end up starting this thing. And it's like, oh, wait, all the things I just learned, I just throw into this next thing, and I just fire up the engine. So I think it's interesting how in times, and even with you, when you came down here for the job, that doesn't work out. And you're like, my life is shit. I came down here. I left the greatest opportunity in my life. Somehow, some way, weirdly trusting your gut and everyone else that trusts their gut, it ends up bringing you to a better position.
It's totally right. And that 7 months of that at that company that failed, like it was really hard. Like driving down to El Segundo from Marina Del Rey every day was like the worst drive of my life. I just couldn't stand even being in the building because I knew it was like it knew it was going to fail. I knew within a month, and I was kind of just like collecting a paycheck. And it's kind of funny because I started doing some advisory work that night, and I started this like community of like founders and operators in the food and beverage space. It kind of like got me to get out there a bit more because I knew I didn't like what I was doing every day. But I kind of watched something implode, and I watched how toxic culture can really destroy a business and an ecosystem. And it's kind of like one of the core tenets I've kind of picked up now in the different businesses I've worked in is like how important team and company culture actually is. And it's something that gets, you hear that as like a young person, you're like, oh, culture, like what the hell? Like that's such an amorphous term. And now I'm like, I think it's like the single most important factor in like whether a business becomes successful and like really scales or not. And I've heard like nothing but incredible things about Liquid IV's culture. And you look at like a business best. Like Sir Kensington's and RX Bar. Like I remember being at these trade shows and like their booths were like parties. Like you could feel the energy of the employees. They were all wearing like matching like Patagonia vests and like they're just like jamming out. And you're like, these people fucking love this company. Like they love what they do. And I feel like we have that with Olipop. We've got like an army of 35 people now. And everyone is obsessed with each other. Everyone's obsessed with the product. And it's like, I have a million reasons I'm like really like believe in what we're doing, but our team is like by far the number one reason. Like it's a family. It's not a job. I throw the word cult around every now and then, but it's like a good cult. It's like this Olipop cult that like get on the train because it's like it's not slowing down.
Yeah, I mean, from my experience, mind you, Liquid IV is the only career I've ever had post college. Started driving Uber full time. I jumped into Liquid IV a year ago. When I jumped into Liquid IV, I was employee number 23. And now it's 50 plus by the end of the year, or might already be there. I don't know what the numbers are because we're all remote. But that if I had to, from my learnings and what I've observed in a year of working for this company, if I had to other than like incredible executive team and leaders, it is the culture. Yeah. Everybody feels welcomed. Everyone feels part of something bigger. Everyone's on the same page. It's very transparent. So I think being transparent with the entire team allows everyone to feel like they have skin in the game or like they know what's happening.
Transparency is so important.
I was going to say, so I'm curious, like from your perspective, how do you think companies and founders and startups of this size, 30, 40, 50 employees, how do you get everybody to feel that feeling that they look at this baby as if it was one of their own?
Yeah, I think about this all the time. I would give like the biggest shout out to Ben and David, the founders of Olipop. Like they have been like pretty meticulously curating this culture from the beginning. And like culture really starts with your first employee. Like if you ignore your culture for your first 10 employees, like you're setting the culture.
It's a domino effect.
It's a domino effect. And then employee 11 comes along and they're like, oh,
nobody gives a shit. Okay.
Employee 8 through 10, like they don't give a shit. So like, why do I give a shit? So they've like have been like very intentional with it from the beginning. And I think it's been this big shift because in San Francisco, culture is like, ping pong tables and free lunches and this like, unlimited vacation policy. Like that to me is just all a facade. Like none of that stuff has anything to do with like how people run meetings, how people ask for help, how people even just like word their emails is such a little thing. But like the difference between an exclamation point and a period when you're asking someone below you for help is like makes all the difference in the world. And like that to me is culture and how people communicate and micromanaging the lack thereof. I think micromanaging is like a major culture killer. Like hiring really good people and then like trying to tell them what to do. As like a CEO or founder as you like are not the expert potentially on that topic, like that can really get in the way. It comes down to hiring. We have incredible hiring practices. Like Ben and David are super meticulous. Everybody goes through like multiple rounds. We've got like different types of interviews and like it's really worked. We've had 2 misfires, 2 people that like kind of didn't work out and like we knew within a few weeks and it was like very mutual, like parting ways. But we're like call it like 30-ish full-time people right now and like 2 misfires out of 30.
That's pretty solid. Yeah, the one quote that always pops in my mind, I still consume his content, but Gary Vee's content religiously, 2016, 2017, every day, all day. And the one thing that I always heard him say was hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah.
Hire real slow, make sure they check off every box, and if it's not the right fit, get them out of there ASAP.
I do actually think that like the first screen is do you know and love the product? Because
Yeah.
if they don't know it and love it, like maybe you can come around on it, but like we want people who are obsessed. Like we have such an amazing community around it. We've hired creative talent, like literally through Instagram, because they were like making Olipop stuff, and like that's the best job interview you can do. It's like,
totally
do something.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. It's super cool.
Yeah. I mean, your employees are your walking billboard. So it's like if they're not passionate about the product, I don't know if it's really going to work long term.
100%.
Because it's just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
I'm curious, as the growth marketing manager, what has been some of your learnings in the last 2 years? What's worked? What hasn't? Any big successes? Any low failures? Without getting to like the true details, but any specifics?
So as a heavy liquid beverage brand, right? Like beverage e-commerce has not really ever taken off. There's a couple brands who've kind of cracked the code. But so we launched like October of 2018 in retail. We didn't even have a website until August of 2019. So we're a whole year not selling a single thing online.
Wow.
And that was last summer. And then we closed our Series A, call it end of the year last year, end of December, early Jan.
Define Series A, because there's going to be somebody listening who doesn't understand
Yeah,
what that
sorry.
means.
It's kind of like your first like proper round of funding, where there's like a true valuation put on the business. There's often like professional investors, not just like friends and family or like angel investors. I go back and forth like if I actually believe this or not, but it's your first like really legit like stamp of approval from the investor community if you choose to raise capital.
Yeah.
And so we announced it. We raised $10 million in January, which is a very healthy amount for a brand that's been around for a year and a half. And I kind of put my hand up and I was like, we have a website. We've got people all over the country who've never tried this product because we were only selling in California. And we've got I think a pretty good value proposition. There's a lot to talk about with the product. It's pretty pitchable. It kind of makes sense to run ads for. And so we brought in an agency to help us start running like Facebook ads in February. And we kind of like took our lumps. Ads are confusing. We didn't understand like the content strategy behind ads and copy and all that. That was kind of February, and our pricing was a little too high. We were charging for shipping, which obviously it's hard to sell $50 12 packs on the internet when people haven't tried it before, right? So March 15th, literally March 15th, I was in Mexico City.
This is right when COVID is probably
about COVID, right? Yeah. Like we made the decision we had made this decision, but we made the changes on the website to cut our prices by 25% and start offering free shipping. And we like killed off one of our like variety packs that like was super expensive and didn't really make sense. And like literally March 19th, the Mexico border closed and like Disney closed. And like that was like the week that the world kind of shut down. And like, it was just hockey stick growth from there. Like I would, put most of the, credit to COVID, to be honest, but people just were flocking to the internet, and they were, now that looking back on it, like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, like the two biggest e-commerce days of the year, like the volume of transactions on the internet for like 6 weeks from March through, mid-March through end of April were Black Friday volumes every single day across all e-commerce, right? So we like happened to start focusing on e-commerce 2 weeks before the biggest e-commerce boom in the history of the world. There was 10 years of e-commerce growth in 3 months, if you look at like the chart of total transactions on the internet. And we were like in the right place, right time. And we've got a good product. We have like an immunity component to what we do, a healthy microbiome. There's like lots of connections between the microbiome and, general immune health. And so people were finding it. And we had just started running ads. So people click through the ads and they buy. And we grew really fast. We grew 1,000% from February to June. And then we kind of like smashed into a wall. Because it was like early June, the world started opening up again. There was all this political unrest. People weren't on their phones 24/7. Like our Facebook costs like doubled overnight. Yeah. And it was like, oh crap. Like there's more to the world than just running Facebook ads. And I kind of we didn't have any experts in house. Like no one in our team had ever, run a Facebook ad, let alone worked in e-commerce before. It's all beverage people, right? Beverages are sold in grocery stores. And so I kind of poked around. I started looking at brands that I think are best in class. Liquid IV being one of them.
Let's go.
Magic Spoon does a really good job in the cereal aisle. There's a brand called Sakara Life that does these really expensive meal plans online, but they crank. And Four Sigmatic, it's another one. They're mushroom powder, mushroom coffee,
right?
50 million plus. They're they've been on Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss. Like I know now I know what those things cost. Like you have to be doing well to be on those podcasts.
Oh yeah, you're talking to a podcast specialist right here, baby.
And the moral of the story was kind of like, if your product's right for it, like these channels outside of Facebook and Instagram actually do perform really well. And so we actually brought on this guy who'd been at Four Sigmatic for the last 4 years, managing all their podcast spend.
Wow.
And he's kind of like, to me, like the podcast guy. Like he knows literally everyone. And there's hundreds of podcasts you can advertise on. I would never be able to navigate it myself. I could name like maybe 4 podcasts that all cost like $50,000 to advertise on, which is not what we wanted to start spending.
Yeah.
And we flipped that on, I would say June to the summer was hard. We were like trying to figure out Facebook. We are trying to diversify away. We tested Pinterest. We tested like these Amazon ads, even though they were not on Amazon, like fail. And then we
you're not on Amazon.
We're not on Amazon. We were running ads from Amazon.
Why aren't you on Amazon?
It's a whole other story. It's just that's another question.
Okay.
We will be in January.
Okay.
I finally kind of figured out how to do it.
Okay, Prime shipping's pretty great.
I know.
I'm sure it's a lot harder.
There's a lot of cases for it. There's a lot of arguments against it.
Gotcha.
We flipped on podcast, and it's again like if you keep charting all these things I'm saying, there's like so many things that were it's like preparation meets opportunity. It's like how luck is created or whatever that.
Yep.
I have no idea what that quote.
No, you're right.
Something like that.
Opportunities when luck meets preparation.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So I committed to podcast in September, and like as luck would have it, we end up on. Do you know Pod Save America is the biggest political podcast in the country? We end up on the episode 1 week before the election that Joe Biden happens to be the guest on.
He was on. Oh, I didn't even know he was on the podcast.
First 17 minutes of the episode is Joe Biden interviewed, and of course, like it's the most downloaded episode of the year, right? Then there's an ad, I believe, for 8 Greens or Athletic Greens, and then Olipop, and there's like a 2-minute ad read where John Lovett, who's the head, he's like the most well-known guy in the show, who's like a very famous Diet Coke drinker, like talks about Diet Coke all the time. He literally says on this episode that like 2.5 million people listen to that he's never drinking Diet Coke again, and he's only drinking Vintage Cola Olipop.
Come on.
And it was insane because we also had that episode the day before. We had Friday and Saturday back to back, so we just that weekend like
you guys were just pouring in on this opportunity.
I mean, the whole thing kind of worked out really nice, and it was our first go with them. And the host loved it. You never know what the hosts are going to say. The reads are they can be, some of them sound really rehearsed, and they just nailed it. And we had our best weekend ever by 4x. We ended up, up 50% for the month. And we're going to lean in pretty hard on podcasts.
Dude, I mean, at the end of the day, that is the sell, is if you can find the host that truly, literally like we were just talking about with employees and finding team members that are passionate or believe in the product or the service that the company's selling. You need to find the hosts that truly believe in the product, because they are your speaking billboard. And in the ad space, you're technically buying a 60-second slot, but they will over deliver because they have
for like 3 minutes
because they have so much to say about the product, which
amazing.
Is exactly what you need.
It was the first time I've really gotten goosebumps it was like, holy shit, we are on the map. And it's crazy because you feel it, you see it. We get all sorts of comments. We had an amazing customer service inbound today, someone saying the prayer emoji, I'm so thankful that I found you on Pod Save America. I'm drinking 2 of these a day. It's the best drink I've ever had. And it's that's so cool, right?
I kind of forget that, honestly, there really are. To give you context, I'm a very health conscious person. Mm-hmm. I'm very aware of what I'm eating on a day to day. When I do, when it's the weekends and I'm out, I'll eat pizza. I don't give a shit because I'm so good during the week and 99% of the diet. But I forget that there are actually people that are drinking 3 cans of Coca-Cola every day, and they're not. It's kind of like
you live in LA and it's a bubble.
But it's not even that. It's just there's people that they're not even aware of how bad that soda can be for you.
One of our statistics it's on our talking points for the podcast host is the average Coca-Cola has 39 grams of sugar in it. A can of Fanta has 44 grams of sugar. Olipop Vintage Cola has 2 grams. Olipop Orange Squeeze has 5 grams. And the amount of people that are shocked by that, even the podcast hosts that are shocked by that, I'm like, you didn't know that? Really? But if you're not in
looking for it,
our wellness space, I didn't start reading ingredients until I got into this whole world, right? I was
35 calories too.
Yeah, 35 calories. You get 180 calories in a Coke. It's I didn't start reading ingredients until I moved to San Francisco, right? Like, that wasn't in my purview. And there's plenty of people who don't ever read ingredients, or like they're like, this tastes good, and you know, that's all they need to know. And so our whole thing is like, that's why we lead with taste, because if you're a soda drinker, like you're in there for the taste, like that's what you're going for. And if you like are then educated that like 40 grams of sugar is, I don't know, 13, 14 tablespoons. If you start showing people like
holy
tablespoons
shit.
And like there's like a half of one in there,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that makes sense.
Dude, I keep my fridge stocked up with LaCroix. I think this might be swapping. I think I might be swapping out for the Olipop gang, dude. Dude, like just looking at the like low calories, like you were saying, low sugar.
Are you like into fiber and the digestive health stuff?
I'm into anything that's gonna make me feel better. I mean, I'm into anything that's like gonna enhance me and make, you know. I take a 12-pack multivitamin every day. I drink a couple. You
chase energy. You good energy.
Oh yeah, I need it, and I think that's what keeps me moving and grooving.
Yeah.
And, you know, early mornings, late nights, just because I'm feeding my body the right stuff.
Food wise, are you cooking stuff at home? Or are you like,
yeah.
a lot of meal prep or
all week? Yep. Grilled chicken, veggies, yogurt, Greek yogurts, protein powdered drinks like shakes in the morning after I work out. During the week at least, like the only time I'm eating out is like on the weekends. Or if I'm out with people, I allow myself to treat myself. But if I'm here, like when you had gotten here, you said, "How's the you made a comment like, what's the food around here?" I like laughed inside because I'm like, little does he know, I never eat out around here. And when I do eat out, I'm usually in Venice or Santa Monica or a different part of LA. So it's like I'm never even eating out in Hawthorne because I prep. Not only is it cheaper and I'm saving myself a shit ton of money week over week, but I just feel better.
Yeah.
And the amount of time and energy I get back into my life because I'm not going out and driving and trying to find food. It's kind of weird. And my roommates would laugh because they say that living with me is like Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray. And it's so true. It's like I do the same shit every day. I eat the same meals every day. I was talking to somebody this weekend. I was explaining to her my meals, and she was laughing at me because she's like, "You literally are like a robot. You eat the same things all day, every day,
man."
But it works.
It's life.
It
do
works.
You do the same like workouts every day?
Kind of for the most part. Well, it's obviously weird with the work from home stuff, but yeah, I do like a lot of calisthenics, and then I'll go for like a 3 or 4 mile run 4 days a week, 5 days a week.
It's been interesting being like, this is obviously the least I've ever traveled in my like adult career, and it's been weirdly rewarding being home a lot. And like we got a grill at home, and I like learned to grill. I've never really cooked much. I wish I did. And like grilling chicken and veggies is like my new favorite thing in the world. It's so good. Yeah. And it's been kind of nice to just be in one place, and like I feel like the community in Venice has gotten so strong.
Totally.
And, it's such a tough conversation to have with people, especially people who are in New York or San Francisco, where like, you know, it's just a different vibe. There's a different energy.
They can't just go outside.
No.
New York City is a whole, the point of living in New York City is to have that, like going down on the subway.
Not to be in your little studio apartment.
Yeah, I would lose my shit if I was living in New York. But I think it was like the first 2 weeks of COVID, I was like, oh shit, like everybody else freaking out. I'm like, I can't go to the gym. What do I got to do? Ever since, I've just leaned into it. I have made so much progress personally, and like trying to just like have stillness in my mind and thinking about like, what does the bigger picture look like? What makes me happy? What am I passionate about? Getting back into the podcast game. Like that's the other thing. It's like, I'm no longer commuting to and from work. I can like shift gears a lot quicker. Like at the end of the day, boom, right into podcast mode. There's no dealing with the driving. Like, so I feel like I'm more efficient.
Have you read any good books in the last 6 months?
Oh man, that's all I've been doing.
What's your
top
which
3?
Which one have you recommended or gifted to the most people?
Oh, Think Like a Monk, Jay Shetty.
Think Like a Monk.
So good. I would honestly even put that as my number 1 favorite book of all time.
Wow. Give me the one sentence on it.
The one sentence. Your mind is more powerful than you think.
Okay. Becoming Supernatural, Joe Dispenza. That would be the one sentence on that book too. That's a good one.
What's it called?
Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza.
Okay, I'm going to write this down after this podcast because
he's like the ultimate mind over matter guy, but from a science perspective.
Yeah.
And that's what did it for me. It was like, what's really going on in there when what you're telling yourself every day, and why does the monkey mind affect your life and outcomes in your life? And like, you know, you hear the word manifesting kind of thrown around a lot in LA, and I kind of always like, is that really a thing? And then he kind of put science behind, like, you know, someone like me or you meeting a ton of people all the time. Like if you set your mind to something and you have like enough conversations with people, especially when you're like in a connected circle like we are, like you will get introduced to someone who can help you with that. And like is that manifesting? Is that being?
I think
it's all connected, right?
Yeah, I think you have. I had a podcast with somebody a couple weeks ago where they were kind of like, I don't believe in manifestation, blah blah. But I think you can't just sit down and think about what you want and it's like it's gonna happen.
Correct.
But you're programming your mind to remind yourself of what you want in your life, and so if you can visually see it, you're gonna be able to just that's on your mind all the time. So it's almost like giving intention for what you want in your life, whether it doesn't matter what it is. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. 3 months ago, one thing I said to myself, I said, I've lived in LA for 3+ years. I have great roommates, and I've met a lot of great people through podcasting, but I don't have like a community. I don't have anybody hitting me up like, yo, what are you doing tonight? We're going here, or doing that. Now, mind you, this is the middle of a pandemic. I understand things started to lighten up. People were starting to be outside more. Luckily, we live in LA. There's the beach, and you know, there's a lot of 6 feet social distancing. But I told myself, from visualization and manifestation, I told myself one of my biggest areas in my life I need to put effort into is building a strong community. And how do I do that? I'm going to jump on any and all opportunities. So it's like I'm having that conversation with myself. And then what happens from that moment moving forward? I've met well over 100+ incredible people. I've been saying yes to things. I've been getting invited to things. Like, so then it's like I manifested what I wanted because I told myself and I had the conversation about what I wanted in my life, and I fucking spoke into existence. I did the same thing 3 months ago when I told you I wanted to get back into podcasting. I had this idea. I wanted to get back into interviewing and having guests on the show. I said, fuck it. I'm going to do it. Stop making excuses. Visualize it. Think about it. Go do it. So I think you have to visualize, which I would say is manifestation. And then you have to go out there and actually do the work and put in the reps of whatever it's going to take to get it.
And it's funny because there's like, there's like that side of the world, which is manifesting and like putting yourself out there and just saying yes to things and going to do random, like go with some random like hike with some people. And then there's this other book I read called Essentialism, which is about prioritization and like
great
when
book.
You're lucky enough to have
great legend.
When you're like almost like lucky enough to have so many opportunities coming at you and so many like different social events and dinners and this, like you have to say no. You have to like start saying no to things and prioritizing like what there's like the balance of like doing like the most like the highest leverage thing you could be doing, and it's like you get a little transactional if you get to that point. Like if you like are in a conversation with someone and they're like they can't help you, do you walk away as an essentialist? Like no, you don't. Like not every single thing has to be like, oh, I got this out of it. Like I think that's a very unhealthy way to live. But for me, as like I feel like I get pulled in a lot of directions. It's been really, really critical. And I read it in, I don't know, 3 months ago, and our whole marketing team read it.
Oh, that's good.
And because we're the same way. We're growing like a weed. We've got tons of places we can market and spend money and throw product at events and random like different celebrities hitting up for things. And it's like, what do we need to do to get like, what is the single thing we can do as a marketing organization to like drive the business forward and like say no to everything else? And it's actually helped drive our marketing strategy, to be honest. And it's been critical, and everyone loved it. So I would say must read as well. But
yeah, no, that's a great book. And I would say if you ask the one sentence, what's the big takeaway? It's he draws a circle for people that are listening. Imagine drawing a circle and pointing an arrow out from every direction of the circle. It's your energy's going in every direction.
It's like these little arrows.
It's these little arrows, mini arrows. But then
half an inch.
He draws another circle and he draws a 5-6 inch line with one arrow, and it's about like what happens when you just focus on that one thing.
I took a picture of that. It's in my favorites. I
look at that's so good.
At least once a week.
Yeah, that's so good. And what's so interesting that you're bringing that up is like I think about 3 years ago I was saying this is what it comes down to with essentialism. I think it is across any area of your life, whether it is business with Olipop, whether it's your personal life, whether it's fitness, whatever it might be. You have to figure out and prioritize what matters most to you in this moment in time. 3 years ago, my number one priority was meet as many incredible people that I can for a podcast. Like I need to get people in for this podcast, and I'm going to drive Uber full time to fund it. And that's those are the top two priorities. Going out and meeting people and going to like a yoga session, it was not even a thought to me because I was like, I have way too much to lose by not putting time and energy into the first two. But then it switches over, things change in your life, different chapters, different goals. And so then it's like, now I went from a place of saying no to every opportunity socially to saying yes. So I think at the end of the day, when it comes to essentialism, it is just about focusing on like, what is your true north? And what like, whether it's for business, what's our true north? It's to provide this incredible sparkling tonic, and we're not going to try also selling something separate that isn't going straight
People
forward.
always ask us, like, can you make a powdered form of this? Can you put it in kegs? Can you? We're like, no.
Yeah.
We're selling cans in grocery stores and online. That's our thing. We're not on Amazon for that reason. It was a distraction. They take a lot of money from you every sale, and we ship everything, from one part of the country, so we couldn't be Prime. And there was like, but now I've actually figured out a solution that is like an essentialist thing. It's like we basically sell it to one company and they're going to do all the Amazon work for us. I was like, great, that's a solution that I can get behind.
So if anybody's listening right now and they do want to get it, you go to the best place to probably be if you're not in Southern California is olipop.com.
Yeah, I mean, drinkolipop.com is where to get it online.
Drinkolipop.com.
Will this be live by Black Friday?
This won't come out until December 7th is a Monday. What's the following Monday?
That's the 14th.
14th. That's when this will come out.
Okay. So drinkolipop.com. We are in 5,000 stores across the country. We're in most Whole Foods stores. We're in every Sprouts store. Wegmans up in the Northeast for the folks up there.
Yeah, we got those in Boston.
We got Erewhon, of course, here in LA. And then Kroger was our big launch store. Kroger's the biggest grocery store chain in the country. Most people in SoCal and the Northeast don't know it, but it's along a lot of the Southeast and the Midwest, 3,000 stores.
Wow.
And they actually own a bunch of other grocery store chains that maybe you've heard of. They actually own Ralph's here in LA as an example. So we picked up 1,000 of their stores, and that's very mainstream. Like that's super important for us because it's like we need to be big in middle America. There's a lot of brands, and I talk about this a lot with the investor world, that like do really, really well in the health and wellness communities in New York, LA, San Francisco. They blow up, they grow really fast, and then they like try to go like sell at Walmart in the middle of the country, and the people are like, what the fuck, you're trying to sell me this $5 like CBD sleep drink? Like, get out of here.
You got to know your market. You got to know where the people are.
And a lot of brands can't make that jump. It's like a big thing. Liquid IV killed it in Costco, right? They made that
was
jump.
It. I wasn't with the company, but that was the moment that really set the thing on fire, and the firework went off, and then everything else is just picked up. And I've
always told people this. It's another thing I've learned. Selling powders on the internet is like really the best business. Powders are often ritualistic. You use them every day.
Yeah.
If you get into somebody's routine, and they are often the highest price to weight ratio. So they're valued high by the consumer, but they're really light and easy to ship. And Four Sigmatic, Vital Proteins, Liquid IV.
Yeah. You know, Liquid IV started as a bottle.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really?
He started as a bottle. And they were having issues with shipping because the shipping costs were so high. And so 2013, 2014, Brandon and the founders at the time, and I don't know who else, but they started questioning, like, what if we made this into a powder? And then they started making it into a powder, but then they were running into issues when there was a time they shipped it to Hawaii because the heat, the powder, like, would thump up. And so then they had to reformat the formula, and that's what led to, full throttle with the powder. But
what's really interesting about Liquid IV, and this is something we kind of touched on earlier, but they never took like really traditional venture capital dollars. And the issue with venture capital is they often come in, they like increase the valuation of the company, and put a bunch of money into it, and then put these like targets on you that you have to hit to grow. And that stuff can be very cancerous from a culture perspective. And it seems to me like Brandon really built the business exactly how he wanted to. And there's a lot of investors who would have said, don't go to Costco this early. Don't give them so much of your business. Like Costco can destroy a business if you don't do well.
Because if you put all your eggs in one basket, you start hiring, you start.
Right. And if you're not selling, they will sell your shit back to you, and then you probably can't sell it to anybody else. And that could destroy a business, but he did what he wanted, and kudos.
Yeah.
He never had, as far as I know, I don't think they ever had any big investment firm in there.
Not that I'm aware of.
My old firm actually was an investor in Liquid IV.
Really?
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying this because I work for Liquid IV, and I fucking mean this, and I would love to clip this episode in 20 years and be like, I remember when I said this, but I feel now don't get me wrong, all the executives, everyone on the team is like, they crush the role that they're in. But I promise you that Brandon Cowen is a different he's not successful because of some luck or some timing. He thinks and he operates on a different level. Like that, if there's one thing that I could, because I have this business interest and I'm such a curious person, up to COVID before we left and had to work from home, that was the one thing that I don't even think he realized, that I was just like watching from afar, even in the office, was like, how does this man operate? He built this with an incredible team, and like there's, you know, a lot of hurdles that he had to go through with co-founders that had left and all that stuff. But to see somebody operate at the highest level, and then to even see the scale even after we went remote, this guy's Kool-Aid is different than a lot of people's. And not to say nobody else can become that type of entrepreneur or CEO and founder, but what it takes to actually do, I know that's not for me. And I think that's one thing I'm really starting to realize is I always think, and maybe I still think in the back of my mind, that like I am a number one, but I've seen so much value at being a 3 or a 4 person and having somebody above me to like ask for help and learn from and grow from. And obviously, you know, somebody like in his position, he had board members, and I'm sure he had family members or other investors that maybe he was leaning on. But I really, when I had this opportunity to jump on the team, I was laughing because I was like, I don't even know if I told him this, but I was like, it does not matter what this man is selling. I'm on his ship. Yeah. Because it's the entrepreneur. It is the mindset. It is who he is as an individual that has me sold. I don't care what you're selling. I'll sell it. Yeah. It's just because of who you are as a person.
I've met a handful of those where you're just like, it's a different breed.
Yeah.
Just a different breed. They've got a different drive and stamina. And it's like it's often an ability to like, some people are the best salesmen ever and the worst managers, and some are like amazing managers, but they couldn't sell ice to an Eskimo. And like the best, I think, entrepreneurs or co-founders have that skill set on lock, where they can like sell the bejesus out of the product, but then like in the day-to-day, they're like very compassionate and they like really understand the wants and needs of their team. And it sounds like he's
totally lying. I'm curious. I wanted to ask this before, and then it just kind of came back into mind now, but I really believe like you got to be passionate about what you do, right?
Couldn't agree more.
Very important. But I also am curious from what you've seen, especially being on like you've been, I feel like, on almost every aspect of like growing a business, whether it was like actually working with Olipop or, you know, VC life. Is it a problem when you hear founders like saying like, yeah, we're going to sell at blank? Like, would you say the majority of these founders are genuinely starting something because they believe in it? Or what's the percentage that some of them are like, yeah, they like this idea, but they're really just in it just to sell the shit out of it and walk away? Like, we got acquired by Unilever, and Brandon's not going anywhere because he's super passionate about the product, and that's fantastic. But like,
it's a very good question.
It's a weird thing that I come across in founders, and they're already talking about like, yeah, we're going to sell it at 100 million. I'm just like,
no, you're not.
What? No, you're not. But also, like, why? Like, are you really passionate about it?
It's funny. This is another topic that comes up a lot. There has been this renaissance in the health and wellness space, and like food and beverage and entrepreneurship, all that combined, has never been sexier. It's also never been easier to start a company. Like, there's enough resources out there. There's enough venture capital dollars and just like general interest in the space that you could like kind of raise money on an idea at this point. And there's a lot of like, a lot of MBA students, a lot of people who are kind of just like, oh, I'm like into this industry and like I'm going to start a company because like it's cool to start a company. And the issue is like, that doesn't cut it with consumers. Like to me, like going back to your question earlier around like, what do I look for and like, what do I like to personally invest in, is like founders who are really truly solving a problem in their own lives, and they are coming up with a solution to a problem that exists in their life that they think other people have, as opposed to just like looking at some research reports in your like MBA entrepreneurship class and like diving into, you know, I think this is a category that I want to build a company in. It just like, to me, that doesn't like really like cut it. Like Ben, the co-founder of Olipop, is like dropped out of college, formulated his first digestive health drink when he was 19, has been formulating digestive health drinks for 15 years, like could not care more about like the microbiome and like human health on a global scale. And like, this is his like, you know, vehicle for doing that. And like, you meet him and you're like, this dude's the most passionate and smartest human I've ever met. Like, I'm going to bet on him versus like, there's so many people who like just want to like, throw up a store on Amazon and like see what happens. And it's tough because it's hard to scale that at the end of the day. And I think it like really you can tell in our marketing and our communications, like the like chutzpah behind the brand, like the team eats, sleeps, breathes it. It's very real. And, it's hard to fake that too.
Yeah.
And I kind of say this line a lot, but it's never been easier to start a food and beverage company. Like there's so many resources out there, but because of that, it's also never been easier or harder to scale it.
Yeah.
There's so much competition. You go to Erewhon, there's like 2,000 drinks in there. I'm like, it's a dogfight. I feel very lucky that we've like been able to kind of carve out our niche and have had some success. And there's like 5 like healthy soda brands now, kind of like similar-ish to us in different ways. Which I think is like a sign that we're onto something. Like we're like building this like functional soda category that didn't exist before.
Totally.
Which is kind of cool.
One question that I think people can ask themselves, and I think it gives you a good idea if you're heading down the right path, is would you still want to be doing what you're doing today if you could never make another dollar doing it? So it's like the founder of Olipop, who is so obsessed and passionate about this digestive, like figuring out the drinks, he probably would still want to dive in and figure that out. He would not be happy if he couldn't make another dollar doing it, but it sounds like he's so passionate about it that he would still be doing it. And so I think that ends up being like a real question that people have to ask themselves. So the guy that wants to start a business and is just talking about the $100 million that he wants to sell it for, are you really gonna enjoy the process of building, or
you want to put like 7 to 10 years in?
That's what I'm saying.
A lot of people think it's like 3 years and an exit. Like that's not how it works. Like
no.
Brandon built like I think that median time to a sale is 7 years, and that's like for companies who are really successful, right? And there's like other brands who've been around for 20 years and then they kind of catch on and they sell. But it's to your point. And I kind of said this before. Like I bounced around, right? I changed jobs a bunch, and I was kind of always hunting that feeling of being obsessed with what I was doing. And like CircleUp was kind of the closest. I was obsessed with the founder side and finding brands. There's like some internal issues there, but so I was like always like looking for the next thing. And then I came down to LA and I was like bouncing around. I was consulting for a while, and I had that company that failed, and I was always like looking for the next thing. And you meet people and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go work with that guy, and then you do some work with them. Like, I don't know about that. And I was just like, I was craving that like obsessed feeling every day, and it's been so relieving that I found it with Olipop. Like I'm totally obsessed and totally bought in with what we're doing every day. And it's like, from like coming back to the essentialism thing, it's allowed me to say no to a lot of stuff. Like if something doesn't like something comes up that doesn't like ladder up to like somehow help us at Olipop, or like apply to like some like if some like random person reaches out to like pick my brain on something, if like they're not like some e-commerce expert that can like help me with something that we're working on, I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I don't have time for that right now. Like I'm way too busy on my day-to-day stuff to like chop out an hour to like at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday to just, like, get coffee with you.
Dude, that is something that I think most people don't think about, how much time that stacks up over time. Like I've gotten really good at now, and I think it comes down to how you communicate the no, is really like how you can be professional and people don't like take it with a grain of salt.
A whole chapter in Essentialism about how to say no and get respect for it.
And this is my judgment now. If it's not an absolute hell yes, this gets me excited, I say no.
Yeah,
it's just not worth.
Love it.
Because there's been too many times in my life where I commit to something, I already regret it. I'm driving to the thing, I already regret it. I'm in the thing, I regret it. And then I'm pissed off for the next week because I just wasted. It doesn't matter the amount of time. As I'm sure anybody, especially yourself or anyone out there, you should value your time at a very high level. Like, I don't care if you're working at a grocery store. I've been there, I've done that. I don't care if you're selling shoes at Finish Line. I've been there and done that. I don't care if you're making minimum wage. You should value your own time at a very high price tag. And if something doesn't excite you, you shouldn't do it.
Have you had situations where you like regretted saying yes, you're going there, you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And then you get there and like something magical happens?
Yes.
Because I've had a couple of those, and it's like made me question myself when I really don't want to do something, because I'm like, is this a sign?
Totally.
Do I need to go there?
Okay, so similarly, I think I'll give you an example. Is like, so here's a good example. When I'm recently trying to build community, I found out there was this running club in LA, based out of Santa Monica. It started in West Hollywood. It's called Grand Running Club.
That's great. I see. Yeah, of course.
It's not that I was nervous that I said yes, but I was nervous driving there because I was like, I know nobody that's coming here today.
9 a.m. on Saturday.
9 a.m. on Saturday. I'm not gonna know anybody there. My homie's the one that told me about it, but he said I'm not going to be there.
He bailed.
But no, he told me the night before he wasn't going to go.
Yeah.
And I was like, I still have to commit. I'm looking to meet people. I'm a runner. I know there's going to be like-minded people, and I just got to show up and do it. And so it's like, I wasn't mad. I wasn't like, shit, why did I commit to this? And like, I'm going there. But I had that like, and then I did it, and it was magical. I started meeting people, and then I kept going, and I started meeting more people, and I started networking. So it's like,
They've got a good crew. I've been there.
yeah, you just like, you have to, yeah, I've had
my buddy John I met in Venice like last August, and again, kind of got connected. He works at a company called Seed. It's like a probiotic supplement business that they've done really well. And we met, and like he was kind of like on the phone. He was like, "By the way, I'm throwing this like wellness retreat in Mexico next weekend. Are you down?" And I was just like, "No way! Like I'm not doing that. Like go to Mexico." He said 250 people. I was like, "What? Like what do you mean? Like what the hell is a wellness retreat? Like what do you mean you throw like you have a job? Like how do you do this?" And I call my buddy, call another friend, and they're both like, "Yeah, let's do it." Like he was like, "You had to go camp," and this whole thing. We're driving down there. We're like going across the border. It's like an hour and a half line crossing the border. It like was a whole thing, and I was just like, "What are we doing? Like, why did I say yes to this? Like, I gotta like, I don't know." And it was the best weekend of my life. It was like I met 100 people there. Who it was first of all, I was like on a vineyard in Mexico that John's co-founder and Yankee's parents own, and like $200 a person, all you can eat and drink for the whole weekend. We did like every wellness modality you could do. It was the first time I ever did breath work. First time I ever did a sweat lodge. We did a cold plunge. We did meditation. It was amazing. And then of course Saturday night kind of turned into a party. But it was like one of the best weekends I've ever had. And these people are like have become that community in Venice for me. And like I think was regretting driving down there. It's funny like, coming back the other direction. It was like that was can this be my life forever? Like I was like. Don't question yourself.
Yeah, I've been really diving into this type of conversation through like even just through like meditating and the books that I'm reading, very spiritual, kind of like Think Like a Monk. Trying to just be so much more open-minded to just like trusting this is going to sound very guru or like whatever, but just like going with the flow of life. And even similarly or kind of on the same thing what you said earlier, because I definitely have done that moment where I'm having a conversation with somebody, I'm assessing, is there anything I can get out of them? No, I need to keep it moving. I'm now just at a place where I'm just trying to just go with the flow of life and just be so present that like, had I met you on the street and you said, "Yo, I build cardboard boxes for a living," like not process like, "Oh, this guy's not going to benefit me." Like embrace the moment and try to cherish like this moment that I'll maybe never have again with this person. Like tell me more. Like or I don't know. I'm just like trying to weirdly like love every moment of my day, of my life, which is like so hard to do, and I catch myself slipping from time to time. But like I'll give you a great example. Before every podcast, I do these like fucking pre-hypes videos that I put up on my IG story. I'm like bumping music, dancing in the mirror before every podcast. And the reason that I do that, I don't think people realize, is because I want to treat every single podcast the same level. I don't want to just mail it in because my boy's coming through for the podcast. So like, we're just going to shoot the shit. And then next week I got like this big celebrity, so I got to get real hyped. I want to treat every podcast at the same highest level because I want this to be the best conversation I've ever had. I want this to be an incredible opportunity and experience for us both. And I want to do that for the next one and the next one and the next one. So it's like I'm trying to duplicate that across everything that I do in my life. Even in the mornings when I'm like, here we go. The first thing I do when I wake up is work out. And I know the workout I'm doing and I know it's the same routine. But how can I ground myself? How can I be present? How can I slow my mind down and not fucking think about what I got to do later in the day or how this is the same workout I did the other day? And just by like paying attention to the objects in the room, or like I go outside to do the workout, I'm looking up at the fucking moon. I'm like, holy shit, that thing is so far away. And it's like, it just like, it grounds me for a second and it kind of resets me. So I don't know. I'm trying to like just enjoy every single moment, even the low moments, even the highest of highs.
Enjoy every moment.
Every moment.
This tattoo says read slowly. And it's just kind of my like, it's one of those, I tend to read too fast, and I'll like read a page and be like, what the hell did I just read? I have to read it again. But it's also just kind of like I keep it here, so I look at it every freaking day. It's like, slow the F down.
Yeah.
Like, don't rush through life, right?
Yeah.
Life is good, right?
Yeah.
We're 29, 30 years old, living in LA. Like, doesn't get much better. Like, appreciate it.
Is that your only tattoo?
No, I've got a bunch.
What else you got?
Got my family's initials on my forearm.
Oh, that's dope.
I got a little.
How many brothers and sisters? Do you have brother and sister?
This is John, Penny, Steven, PJ, Katie.
Oh, whoa. We got a big squad there.
Well, dad, mom, and 3 siblings.
Dope.
Yeah. Got a little triangle here. I actually have the Vennegraber Besser is the German phrase from Essentialism that means less but better. And it just like when I read that, I was just like, God, that's good. And I got it tattooed right here.
Oh, that's fine. I just got one right here. That's a great spot.
We've got like the same spots of like,
pretty,
I'm like
I mean,
here,
pretty
I've got
much.
here. I got a little one, my first one ever. I got on my inside of my ankle.
Oh, that's dope.
3 little parallel lines.
I never. If you asked me 2 months ago, would you ever get hand tattoo? Or not 2 months ago. It was probably, I don't know. Say top of the year. Would you ever get hand tattoos? I would have said, fuck no.
F no.
Did it.
Just that's cool. What does 1% mean?
1% growth per day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like it's tough talking about tattoos on a podcast so I can't say anything, but
no, yeah. Well, you can describe it. I still think the audio conversation and storytelling is beautiful. Like when I'm listening to podcasts, I'm maybe because I podcast myself, that I'm like trying to visualize the conversation and like things that they talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I love tattoos. One thing that I saw and I definitely want to hit on with you is Minds Foundation. You're a junior board member, and I had read something that said Stephen is passionate about mental health as it has impacted both him personally and many people in his family and professional network. What have been some of mental health challenges you face in your own life or that you've been a part of and had to help others?
Yeah, it's funny coming back to that wellness retreat in Mexico. The founder of mine spoke there. There was like a distinguished speaker series thing, and they had like 6 different people speak for 15 minutes, and like every one of them was awesome. He's psychiatrist. I always confuse psychiatrist and psychologist, but from India. Like India is like 1 in 3 people have mental health issues. Started this foundation to help kids with mental health issues in India 10 years ago. Brought it to LA last year. Spoke at this event. I was kind of like blown away. I was like, this is what he's doing is amazing. And then he had an event in LA, and all he did was just ask if I could bring some Olipop there. I was like, sure, like, can I come? Like, and he was like, of course. And it was a panel about suicide prevention, which like I was like, well, what does that even really mean? Like, let's see, like how do you prevent suicide? And there was actually 3 people on the panel who had attempted suicide, and 1 whose brother had committed suicide. And I was like serving Olipop, right? So I was like the last one to sit down. I literally was like, everyone, no one sits in the front row, right? At a little panel at a little space in West Hollywood. And I'm sitting in the front, and I'm just like 3 hours go by, and it's like the most intense 3 hours I've ever had in my life. Like I never heard people talk about this stuff before, and I was just kind of like totally moved by it, and was like, this is like needs to be, more people need to hear this, because more people need to know that this is going on in the world. And I feel very, very lucky that I have never been through really serious trauma personally, and like had an awesome upbringing and all that stuff. But like studies show that anywhere between 1 in 4 and 1 in 2 people have been through trauma, whether that's PTSD from overseas or like a sexual assault or a child abuse, all that stuff. And it's like it really opened my eyes. And I had like an uncle cousin kind of had some issues, and I've actually seen more of it in the entrepreneur world, and just like seeing the dark side of entrepreneurship. And I like feel like I'm kind of like a confidant for a lot of my friends who started companies, and it's really tough as a founder. Like you can't complain to your employees. You really can't go to your investors with the negative stuff. It's like your spouse, if you have one, who gets the brunt of it, and close advisors and friends who like aren't maybe professionally tied to the business. And so I've gotten a lot of those calls of like, how the f- do you deal with this? And like, I think access to tools that normalize asking for help is incredibly important. And that's what Minds does. And it's been obviously tougher doing stuff with COVID, but Regu's been doing virtual events, and it's powerful. It's really powerful stuff. There's another book in there called The Body Keeps the Score that's about trauma and its physical effect on the body, which is another thing. Like I knew absolutely nothing about. Shout out to Ben from Olipop for turning me on to that. But fascinating. Like the physical effects on the body of trauma that can go back to like being 1-2 years old is insane. It's like staggering. Yeah.
I think sometimes it can be very hard for people to relate when they hear somebody's going through something, and so they're trying to try to be somebody to lean on or listen. And the experience, well, it can be tough to like sit there and listen and try to be of help to somebody because you don't know what to do, or you might be sitting there and thinking like, how is this bothering somebody so much? Like this doesn't seem like it's something they should be caught up on. And I think really what's something that's super important that I have learned in my own life is every experience affects people differently.
Yeah.
I have a breakup or you have a breakup. Those could be two separate breakups and can completely, we can
have completely different experiences.
Yeah, totally experiences. So it's like, who am I to say like, come on, Steven, like just move on, like go on to the next thing. Yeah. I have no idea what's going on in that head of yours, and I don't know what those conversations are like.
I feel like on Instagram, I see like once a week someone reposts like a story. It's like that. Here's your daily reminder that you don't know what someone else is going through. I think it's a Robin Williams quote actually, and it's just one of those that like it should be on everybody's wall. It should be on everybody's like post-it note on their hand every day. It's like, you really got to be nice to people because you never know, and you never know what somebody's going through. And I met a kid on Abercrombie the other night who was like, he was 18, he was like in AA. His sponsor was like, he couldn't get a hold of his sponsor. He was like the worst sponsor ever, and he was hammered, and he was calling out for help, to be honest. And I ended up standing there talking to him for like 20 minutes and like took him to Erewhon, got him some food. I was just like, I don't know what this kid's gonna do. Like someone's got to pay attention to him because like who knows. And I don't know. Well, I don't know if I saved his life or not. Who knows? But like, it was one of those things in the moment. I could have just like walked away, right? Like everybody else did. But I was like, this kid's crying out for help. It's very obvious, and you don't know what someone else is going through.
Yeah. I think one, like you said, you don't know what somebody else is going through. I think just keeping that in mind is super important. And I think having the conversations and being open to it. And if you are somebody that is going through something, to not feel scared or ashamed to not speak up. I feel very fortunate because along this journey of me getting into podcasting since 2016 and like sharing my story, I kind of became so comfortable with this is me. This is all of me. And so like,
hard to do that.
I share it all, especially those solo pods I was telling you about. I do a solo pod a week and then I do a guest pod a week. These solo pods, I joke on the solo pod. I'm like, this is like my therapy session because I'm just like spilling my fucking life and I just own it. But it weirdly feels like so good. There was a podcast I did a couple weeks ago, by far the most vulnerable, open podcast that I have ever recorded. It was something that I knew I wanted to do for a while, but I kept making excuses not to do it. And I just was like, I'm just going to do it. And then I did it, and it opened up on like my previous like relationship with women and how I've allowed society's expectations and thoughts and views on life like really screw up my head. I'm like, I'm supposed to be the guy that's just going out and hooking up with chicks all the time. Like I've allowed, and if I'm not, then I'm not a good looking guy. I'm not a cool guy. So, and to just say that and go into a lot more detail, it was like the most freeing feeling in the world.
Is the word, right?
Yeah.
Cathartic.
Yeah. Cathartic. And it just felt so good. But then I forget that like there are people that they just let that brew. They just let it marinate.
There are people. Every person.
Yeah.
Almost every person lets that brew.
Yeah.
That's where like that stuff builds inside you. It's like you build up stress. You build up physical things. Like you build up like stuff in your fascia and all that. It kills you.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah. You gotta let that shit out. Is there any area of your life you're putting more effort into? You feel very well balanced, or is there anything specific in your mind that you need to put more effort into?
Maybe this is like sort of a throwaway answer, but I do feel really good when I make food. When I'm actually making my own meals, it's like a little thing, but it's like I have a little bit more control there, and it's like so much better than eating out or getting delivery, and so much cleaner. Like I learned how to grill a couple months ago, so I've gotten into that. Shout out to my roommate Lucy for teaching me how that works. Yeah, that's like a little simple thing, and then I guess like to be completely honest, is saying no to more things. Like it's been the number one thing I think about is like how do I start saying no to more things politely without pissing people off, because like I have to be so ruthlessly protective of my time right now. Yeah, because the days are busy. Yeah, and they're super busy.
So when you're saying yes to things, is it usually like just like every day there's a lunch you're going to? Is there like a dinner? Is it the weekends? Like when you say that you need to start getting better saying no, are there certain occasions you're saying yes? Or even when you say yes, do you feel happy that you said yes? Or do you find yourself like you're mad?
Yeah, there's definitely like strategic yeses. I have developed enough of a reputation in the food and beverage world where, you're networking, you're starting a beverage brand and whatever, and you meet someone who's like, oh, you gotta talk to this guy Steve. Like he's doing all these things in the beverage world. He's got this like Slack group and this and that, and I like.
So it's for their value. It's not for you. It's for them to benefit, not necessarily
I joke
you.
I'm like going to start a company called Can I Pick Your Brain? Because I get like.
You get that a lot?
I get a lot of those. And I love it, right? It's a cool thing. It's kind of a badge of honor, right? It's like you're somebody people want to talk to about things. It's kind of cool. And I ask for so much advice along the way. But the reality is like I don't have like a lot of spare hours to just like dish out free advice anymore. And I'm not like when you're in the investing world, like that's kind of the game you play is this long game. You're meeting with founders. It might be too early. But like you never know, they could know someone else, and like you're just kind of playing this like relationship networking game. And I played that for 4 years, and it's been like really, really rewarding to like be solely focused on like running our paid growth at Olipop. That's like my singular focus at work right now, and like yeah, it's like fun. I love meeting new brands. And I still do those things, right? I went out to dinner with someone on Sunday who's starting a drink company here in LA, and she was great, and gave her some pointers here and there, but. I just like don't have time to do like 4 of those a day like I used to. And so I have to be like super strategic. And to my kind of coming back to my point earlier, it's like really easy to start a food and beverage company right now. So there's like plenty of things that kind of get sent my way that I'm like, I don't know if that like deserves to exist. And ipso facto like deserves like a lot of free advice and connections from me. And so I'll pick and choose stuff because I also do some of my own investing too. So some of these things are like how I've found stuff that I've ended up investing in. So like there are certain things, don't get me wrong, that I like end up falling in love with.
It can benefit.
It definitely can benefit for sure.
We got to give a shout out to I know that you got 3 of them in your bio: Three Wishes Ceral, Jot, and then Madre Mescal. Is that how you say it?
Madre Mescal, Mescal brand based out of Venice.
What is it? Is that tequila?
It's mezcal is like tequila is like darker, smokier brother.
Okay, so you got tequila, you got Ceral, and then what's Jot?
Jot is a super concentrated liquid coffee.
So you got a little bit of everything, dude.
I honestly like
Three Wishes Ceral. How is that? Is that bomb?
It's amazing. It's so good. I invest in stuff that I want to use every day or can use most days. I don't drink mezcal every day, but mezcal goes really well.
So do you wait for these opportunities to just get like presented to you, or do you go seeking them? Like, you tried the product, you're like, this is really good. Let me hit these people up and see if I can invest in them.
It's a mixture of the two. Jot is an example. They're like one of the first hires I went to college with, and she's worked in like consumer focused PR for the last couple of years, and messaged me like a few months before they were launching, like, hey, can I send you products? Like, would love to get your feedback. And I love to get the products. Like, I love trying them. I love posting about it, getting people's feedback on it. And I never drank coffee in my life. You
got a big. I saw like your post earlier today. You got a big coffee cabinet now.
Now I got a big coffee
cabinet. Things have changed, huh?
Well, my roommate's big into coffee too, but I had never drank it. It like made me jittery. Just like something I never needed. I'm high energy. You're high energy. I just get up and go. And then I had Jot, and it was like I put like a little bit. Fill up a glass with water, drop an ice cube in, pour it like a tablespoon of this liquid into a spoon, and drop it in the water, and like you perfect cold brew in 10 seconds.
Ooh.
To me, that's like light bulb. It's like I'm obsessed with this product. The way that they extract it, like I don't fully understand all this, but like the caffeine uptick, like I never get clammy hands from it. I'm not super jittery. Like it totally changed my like purview on how coffee affects the brain, which was like a huge unlock for me. And it's so simple and it's so easy to explain to people. And like there's no mess. You're not grinding beans. You don't need a big coffee maker. It's like water, shot, ice, boom. Takes literally 10 seconds. Like, wow. And that to me is like, okay, great product. Really innovative. I'm obsessed with it. And it's like completely changing like the delivery mechanism for coffee, which like if you crack that code, coffee is such a big category. Like they need a little fraction of it. They also had like beautiful website, amazing team, like yada, 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 check the box. Yeah, I invested in that one. I love it. You can tell when I get into these things. It's like I'm like the ultimate hype man.
Yeah, but I love that, dude. Like that's so from my perspective, from the conversation we've had thus far, you're somebody that is very passionate about what you do and where your hands are, like with these investments. And I think that's so awesome because, and one thing that I take for granted, we were talking about earlier, like we're very, I think, connected to a lot of the same people, but like people that are in different industries, doing amazing things, and they're all very passionate.
You have to be.
You have to. But what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of people that don't find that passion. or aren't seeking it?
I mean, I like joke around with them a lot, but like a lot of my buddies from college are like doing the like financing in New York, and like it's a job, right? And they hate it, and they kind of think I'm an alien because like I love what I do, and I'm out across the country, and I'm like, I gave up meat for 6 months, and I got into like yoga and meditation and breath work and like all this stuff that's like so LA, but I'm like, all those things are amazing. Like it's just different strokes for different folks. And you know, I've had that question before, like, why are you so into Olipop? Like, how do you care so much about something like that? And like, it's hard to explain to people who like aren't on that wave. Like, I feel like you kind of like get it or you don't. And it's, if you kind of cross that chasm and you find it, it's like the best feeling in the world, right? It's like a drug. But you know, it's like, I try to tell people like, focus on something that you're really passionate about, and like kind of try to back into, like, if you're graduating college, like my sister last year, she's super into health and wellness, but like it's really hard to just get a job at like an Olipop without some experience. So I was like, go work at an agency that consults for wellness brands. Go work at a PR firm. Go work at a digital marketing agency that wants to hire young, hungry kids and train them. And that's what she's doing now. Wow. And like, if you go from the industry first lens of like, what kind of companies do I want to be working with? What kind of people do I want to be working with? There's a way in to those places. You just got to kind of know and of course, like, I'm in the space. I was able to like direct her a little bit and be like, kudos to her. She ended up like completely landing this job by herself, and it's like the dream job and where I would have told her to go, and she like found it completely independent of me because she's a rock star. But there's like ways to hack that, and people are like, oh, I can't just go work in the industry I want to do. Like, you probably can. You just kind of got to figure out and wedge your way.
You got to reverse engineer that position you want to be in, and how do you get to that excellent position? Exactly. You said 6 months without meat. You still on that?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. I was 6 months. I was 6 months pescatarian. Wow. I had this like, I moved to San Francisco. I'd never met a vegan in my life.
That's a while ago. Okay.
I watched Cowspiracy, and the sustainability thing clicked for me. I never whatever. I don't want to go too deep in that, but the sustainability thing, I was like, oh my god! Like when you hear it takes 2,000 gallons of water to make a hamburger, in your brain, you're like, I don't understand what you mean. It's a meat, like it's a piece of meat. Like, where's the water? And then you're like, oh, it's going into the cows that are juiced up and pumped full of like corn and water to like make your burger, and that's the waste. And like, I was like, oh, that's the disconnect I didn't get. And I cut red meat out the next day, red meat, and actually dairy products. It's funny because I used to have like skin issues and cut red meat and dairy out, and I really haven't gone back. I'll eat like good red meat every now and then. I almost never have. Like, I used to eat just so much Chobani yogurt. Haven't had one in 5 years.
Damn, that's what I live off of.
Clean my skin right up.
Really?
Right away. Yep. I definitely was intolerant. I had no idea, right? But if your body, you're not connected with like the body and all that stuff, it's tough to like know why you're breaking out, right? You don't think about it. I went like no red meat for like 4 months. I was actually on a road trip from San Francisco to LA, and I ate In-N-Out. It was like the only thing, like within 100 miles, I was starving, and I got so sick. My body was just like, no, sir, you can't do this. So I went without red meat for a long time. It's different, honestly, being in LA. There's like a lot more access to like grass-fed and pasture raised and all that stuff. And I went out for a while, like really gorging on like the Beyond Meats and like the processed plant stuff. And I was like, I don't think this is actually better for you. So I've kind of swung back, and I'll do like very focused on cleaner. Definitely more skew fish and chicken. I'll have like pork and beef, like very rarely at like a nice restaurant or something. But super cognizant of meat.
Yeah, I think dieting, you have to test and try for your own body. I think everyone's a little bit different, and things affect you differently than might affect me. The yogurt, that's interesting. I might have to consider cutting that back, because I've even noticed recently, like, and I couldn't figure out why, like, my chest is breaking out. I'm just like, where the fuck is this coming from?
It's funny you said yogurt earlier, and I was like, I don't know anyone who eats yogurt anymore, because it's like, I've had so many people who've cut it out and just been like, oh yeah, that was it.
I literally inspired. Like, literally, I went to the grocery store, bought a bunch today. I'm gonna finish it off, and I'm gonna cut it in 3 months. And if you get a text and you hear from me and I say you were right, you're gonna know exactly what I was talking about. So let's freaking go. This is definitely this is a topic I hit with every guest, and it's been specifically interesting for when I get the women on the podcast, because I look today, it's probably about 80% skewing male podcasts right now. We're trying to swing it more, that's why I'm bringing more females on here. Yeah. What has your experience of the LA dating scene, or thoughts on it?
Anyone? 100% better than San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even close. It's fun. I like know I'm very like blessed to have
your personality.
I have a lot of people in my life, man, and like I'm like very lucky to live by the beach in Venice, and there's like lots of people around, and like it's been so much easier meeting people in LA than I ever found it to be in San Francisco, because I was an outsider in San Francisco. I worked in venture capital, but I didn't work in tech venture capital. I worked in food and beverage, and I was like into like branding and design and aesthetic, and I wasn't into like big tech. And like you go out on dates, and it's like we don't have the same interests. Like, and I started going to LA, and I was like, these are my people.
Yeah.
And that, to be completely honest, like we've got this like Olipop's like a very LA brand. We're kind of all over the place. It's like it's but much easier when you meet someone randomly, and I'm like, yeah, I work on this beverage company, and like they're like, oh, I brought one with me in my purse today.
Wow.
It's like, it's kind of cool, sell. Right? Yeah. And so it's like hard to compare, I guess, to any other point in time in my life, but I love it. And it kind of comes back to what I was saying before. There's a lot of interesting people here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people doing a lot of interesting stuff, whether it's like, like yoga instructor or like talent agent, right? It's like those are so interesting. Those are both so interesting in their own right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are into the same. Like I'm obsessed with traveling. Like when that comes back, like it's a lot of you. It's not hard to find people who like are on the same wavelength as you. And I've never done the dating thing in New York, so I don't really have that to compare it to. But compared to San Francisco, it's
you're more just going with the flow wherever the life takes you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a dating app guy. I always found that to be kind of toxic. Like, I mean, I meet so many people through my like day-to-day life and through.
You don't even
like,
need it.
Like, if I don't meet someone through that like side of my life, I'm like, I'm doomed.
This is why I'm moving to Venice, like that area, because there's a lot of upside. And before I even lived here a year ago, I used to live out in north of Burbank. I was in Sun Valley, California.
Smokes.
Yeah, it was uber budget. We didn't have much to work off, so we had to make it work. But that's exactly why I'm making the trip. Like, I have a great space here with these guys. I love both my roommates. But I just like miss every weekend. I am on the 405 going to and from 6. There was one weekend in 2 days I did 8 round trips, and it was ridiculous. It's like, God. I have to make the move. And so even though I know the price of living goes up and everything else in my life goes up, I'm just like,
worth it.
See, this is what I need. I need to see what to give me the green light.
It's funny too, because I moved down to LA 3 years ago, November 3 years ago. Moved to Marina Del Rey, really busy area on Lincoln, like didn't love it.
Yeah.
Moved to Playa Vista, was kind of in the like cookie cutter, like young kids and dogs area. And it was like a really awesome place, amazing amenities, pool, gym, everything. But I was just like, is LA not all it's cracked up to be? And then like in the last year since being in Venice, all of my opinions have completely
Mind
changed.
you, Marina to Venice is one town.
I know.
For people that don't understand, it's just it's two different worlds though. It's definitely two different worlds.
And this was again pre-Olipop, really being in the. There is this kind of like entrepreneurial energy, startup energy. Like I know so many people building. Like one of my buddy Wesley has a kind of. It's a subscription management platform. So when you're a subscriber to Olipop, we actually proactively send you a text before your next order processes, and you can text us back if you want to switch flavors, skip a month, cancel anytime.
Wow.
And it's my buddy Wesley who built it in Venice, and like he's a friend, and we were like his first client, and so it's cool, right? And I've referred him a bunch of business, and like we're all like working together, right? Like my buddies at Seed, like I talk to them all the time. We're using a lot of the same influencers. We're trading notes. My buddy Ari, he's running our podcast. He's a Marina Del Rey guy. Like he was at Four Sigmatic. It's like there's this crazy like startup ecosystem on the west side of LA, and everyone's like into all the health and wellness stuff, right? Like people always like think it's hilarious when I tell them that like we do a lot of coffee meetings at Erewhon. They're like, you have meetings at a grocery store, and it's like, you don't get it.
You don't
like,
get it. Yeah, you don't get it.
We gotta bring you. I'll give you an Erewhon tour. I take pride in my Erewhon
it'll be
tour.
the first Erewhon tour of my life. So
my plug for you is guess the number one selling drink at Erewhon.
Number one selling drink,
non-water. Oh yeah.
Number one
by 2x.
Holy shit!
That Venice store.
So are people going in there just buying people go in there if they want to get lunch, they can buy just one can and then like a
we only sell single cans everywhere.
Really?
Yeah, it's
but online.
Why I love
isn't it a 6-pack online?
12 packs online.
12 packs.
Why I love Olipop and why of all the
how
other
much retail?
$2.49.
Okay.
So that healthy drinks set at Erewhon, everything is $4. Like it's hard to get a drink there under $3, and we're at $2.49, and we go on sale. Every couple months we're 2 for $4 or 3 for $5. But that's accessible, right? If you're Diet Coke, you get 12 pack, got Diet Coke for $4.99. We're never gonna be there, right? We've got real ingredients. We have no fake sugars. There's 9 grams of plant fiber in there. That's not free, right? But like we'll be $2 long term, and that's my overarching kind of thesis on investing and like the brands I want to build are like accessible wellness. Like I don't want to be that $10 drink at Erewhon that just is for rich people and like Gwyneth Paltrow, right?
Yeah.
A lot of that goop stuff, it's like great if you can afford it, but like we want soda drinkers drinking this. I need Diet Coke drinkers in the middle of the country who are paying $4.99 for a 12-pack to be like, I'm going to pay a little bit more for something that's way better for me. Yeah. And that to me is how you build like true scale and impact. Like I don't give a shit about the health and wellness space, to be clear. Like those people are going to buy our stuff no matter what. Like we need to get to the soda drinkers. We need to get the people who are killing themselves with their soda consumption and get them off of Coke and onto Olipop. And that's kind of like our broader mission is mainstream.
I can feel it, dude. It's coming.
It's happening.
It's coming. And I'll have this interview. And so when freaking, when the growth keeps coming, I'm going to start pulling these clips like, yep, we talked about it. We talked about it, called it here. Damn,
next year's going to be massive. I'm super stoked.
Yeah, that's bomb. Kind of getting towards the end. Have you ever heard of We Are Not Really Strangers? You ever seen that get shared on Instagram?
Yeah.
It's a card game. Yeah, exactly. So I bought the card game a couple months ago, and what I do beforehand, every guest gets here, is I pull a card for you. The idea is this card game is like Cards of Humanity, but for like real life, deep, not just scratching surface level questions, like diving deep. Question for you is, what would your younger self not believe about your life today?
Literally all of it. Like I was like a very cute little kid, and then I was like a super overweight like 10-year-old, and I was a bully. I was not nice, and I was like projecting. Classic, you read about like, people like projecting. I knew I was getting made fun of for my weight, so I made fun of everybody. I was like Eric Cartman. I was like such a little shithead. I literally only cared about like the Yankees and the Jets, and like that was my life. I played baseball. I was obsessed with baseball cards, video, MVP baseball 2004, like Manny Ramirez. I still remember that.
Sox, like, baby, let's
go. My younger self would be absolutely shocked. Even my Penn State self, to be honest. Like if you told me I was going to move to San Francisco and start doing yoga once a week and give up meat and get into like health and wellness, like no chance. That's why I kind of feel like I'm like a mole. I've like gotten into this space. I'm super into it, but I also know what it's like to be like really anti it, right? And so I've like pulled some people in. Like my brother and my sister are both plant-based, and my parents actually like cut a lot of their meat intake. And like I've definitely been able to like take what I've learned and like package it up in a way that's like a little bit more approachable. Like I wouldn't just drop them into Venice, right? Venice is its own breed. It's kind of where all this stuff like starts, and you have to like take it, distill it down to like the important parts. Same thing with like the plant-based stuff. Like when I got into that, I felt like an evangelist where I was like, yeah, even if you're like not as much into the ethical side of it, which is like super important, but there's just some people who don't get there on that. Once they start understanding the sustainability stuff and the impact on your body, then you're like, oh shit, this is real. I need to pay attention to this. And so I kind of felt like, and I mean, it's funny because like I read Becoming Supernatural last year. I read Essentialism, Body Keeps Story. I've kind of like gotten a lot more into like the mental, like spiritual meets science stuff. And I'm a huge believer in it. And I've gifted Becoming Supernatural to probably 20 people. I've probably gifted Essentialism to 10 people.
Wow.
I feel like I'm like that guy who like made the jump over and like gets it, but I also get what it was like to be on the other side. So to answer your question, he would be surprised by everything.
Wow.
I always joke like 20-year-old me would hate 29-year-old me. They would not be friends.
Not a fan.
They would not be friends, which is like, I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I've been able to grow and like kind of leave most of that stuff in the back. I'm not perfect, right? I'm a Gemini. I screw up every now and then.
No, but I love that you are like the way you just said that you're proud of that transition and who you've become, and like we change and our values change and our goals and our interests change with time.
Do my college friends make fun of me 24/7? Of course.
Yeah.
Do I absolutely relish in it? Of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. I love that. Before we wrap up, I always allow the guests to kind of put out a challenge to the listeners. If they've made it this far into the podcast at this moment in time, about an hour and 30, if they made it this far in this podcast, what's a challenge for them? Something that could benefit them, help them grow in any way. It doesn't matter what their interests are or industry that they're trying to get into. What's something that you've seen help you that you think could help them?
Don't touch your phone for an hour when you wake up in the morning. If you have a job that allows it, I always tell people like, I'm at the point now where like, yeah, there's always fires that get to be put out, but like, we're not selling cancer drugs like we sell soda on the internet. Like, most things can wait till 8 a.m. So like I'm up by like 6:30, 6:45. I try to meditate in the morning. I try to get a workout in. I don't always do that. I'm definitely not perfect. I don't have like as rigid of a schedule as you do. But and again, I don't even do this every day. I try to do it every day. I lost my phone for 5 days this summer, and it like blew my mind how amazing it was to wake up without an alarm clock. I actually don't set an alarm anymore, and I'm like, some days I'm up at 6:30, some days I'm up at 7:15.
Letting your body get the sleep it needs.
Because like if you're like constantly putting yourself through all this stuff, and then you're like, gotta be up at 6, gotta do everything, and it's like I found myself getting so tired. And I was like, what's going on? And then I lost my phone, and I don't use an alarm anymore. It's kind of amazing. But if you can go no phone in the morning, it's actually like the best way to start your day. I think I found.
Wow.
No phone, definitely no Instagram till like 10.
Yeah.
Please. But that would be my challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Go an hour.
Yep.
For me, it's like I try to get till 8 a.m.
That's huge. I think the not looking at your phone and checking notifications, text messages, it completely derails your day. Set the day, get good intentions, focus on yourself, get in a walk, a run, a meditation, a yoga session, a journal, read a little bit of a book, call your mom, call a family member that you want to talk to. Like, dude, I'm big on that. I'm big on just...
If I get on Slack or like work email, it's over. Like the brain turns on.
Yeah,
I see
then you're full throttle.
I got to deal with.
It's a domino. I see emails that, right when I wake up and I go to turn the alarm off, I see all these notifications. I go, don't need it.
I actually got this app that they talk about in Breath by James Nestor, which is another great book about breathing and the power of nasal breathing. It's an app that plays like 5 minutes of, or 5 to 10 minutes of like some white noise before you go to bed. And then it actually records you snoring and it silences all your notifications. So you wake up in the morning and all you can do, the only thing you do on your phone is look at how you slept and look at your snoring during the night. And snoring is often a very good leading indicator of like if you're sick, how your nasal passages are working, are you breathing out of your nose or your mouth? And so like when I wake up in the morning, it's the only thing I can do on my phone. And like I look at it, I put my phone down, and then I have my hour.
Ooh, that's good.
And I've got my Whoop too. I got my Whoop.
Oh, the Whoop. I saw that earlier. That's fire.
Very helpful. Yeah. It's something I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. I used to wear watches all the time, but I'm pretty addicted to it. Gets me like, like how well rested you are. Tells me how bad I am on the weekend. Which is like a little bit annoying.
A lot of red alarms after the weekend come.
It's Monday. Like, but it tells me like how hard I should work out based on how I trained yesterday, how I slept. There's like some nights where like you just feel like you didn't sleep at all right, and then you just like, did I sleep last night? You're like kind of in and out, and it like tells you, it knows when you're sleeping and you're not, and it's pretty useful actually. I'm a big Whoop proponent now.
That's pretty dope. I know we mentioned it earlier, but where can people get Olipop? What's the best?
I would go on our website, drinkolipop.com. I have my little personal code, Steven20, 20% off. If you've never had it, I always tell people to try the variety pack. Our flavors taste super different. There's like a classic cola, it tastes like a Diet Coke. There's a root beer. Strawberry vanilla is like a strawberry cream savor. But online, and then we're in 5,000 stores across the country: Whole Foods, Sprouts, Wegmans, Kroger.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah.
Where can people find you directly on Instagram at
Steven Parker?
Yeah, I thought your last name was Parker.
A lot of people think my name's Steven Parker, which is kind of funny because it's Steven Parker Vigilante, but I've always kind of said like Vigilante's like too badass of a name, and I'm like not that much of a badass.
Oh, come on, give yourself some more credit, dude.
I don't know. Just like I grew up like Sean Parker was like the guy, and I was like Steven Parker, Sean Parker. So yes, and the truth is I changed it in college when I was going through like Goldman Sachs interviews and like Citibank, and I was always so afraid like they're gonna be like, it was like, yo, you can't have anything on Facebook or Instagram. So we all changed our names to first name.
So Bill. They couldn't find it.
And then I moved to San Francisco, and like people started to call me Steve Parker, and I was like, I kind of like this like alias sort of thing. And it's Steven Parker on Instagram. That's probably like the easiest way to get a hold of me, actually.
IG's always. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you screenshot this episode, post it to your IG story, tag Steven at Steven Parker __, and tag me at Bob BO 3 B's 4 A's and a Y. Share it out. Let us know what you enjoyed about this episode. It helps grow this podcast organically, and we greatly, greatly appreciate it. Make sure you get some Olipop, Steven20, for the 20% off discount. Steven, thank you for coming in on the podcast today. This was an absolute pleasure, man. And I can't wait to see you guys keep crushing it. I'm going to be replacing my LaCroix with some Olipop. So, RIP LaCroix. We got some better shit coming in.
Good energy in here.
But it's been a pleasure catching up with you and actually getting to meet you and break down the story. And appreciate taking the time.
This was like 2 week turnaround time. That's
pretty good. Yeah, we got to hustle, man. Always hustling, always grinding. That's it. We'll see you guys and gals soon enough. See ya.